Hello, Cyberworld. It is your girl, the one and only Ash Said It. AshSaidIt.com. AshSaidIt.com. Welcome back to the Ash Said It Daily Podcast Show. We appreciate you guys for all your love, all your support. Nearly 500,000 streams worldwide and growing daily. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Today, I'm joined by author Tommy Murray. Hi, Tommy. How are you doing today?
Greetings from the Twin Cities. Thank you for having me on your program.
Oh, well, thank you for finding time in your schedule. I know that you've got a lot of stuff going on.
Basically, a lot of interviews with good people like you.
Oh, you're so sweet. All right, so first on the bat, let our audience know, where are you from? Where do you represent?
I'm from the Twin Cities. I am a retired Minneapolis public school teacher of 33 years. Originally, I was born in Iowa, though, and that's where my story takes place, down in northwest Iowa. My father was a baseball coach in a little Catholic high school, and I was the bat boy. And my father came from a tiny little town called Bancroft, Iowa, in northwest Iowa. And it's a baseball-crazed community where baseball is life and death. It's more than a sport. It's a religion. And so I wrote this story over a 40-year time period. My intention was to give it to my father. It was dedicated to him and just say, here you go, Dad, I love you. And unfortunately, he came down with dementia before I could finish this. And so I finished it anyway, and I was going to make just a few copies, give them to my children, and say, here's a window to what sort of my life and what I experienced and what your grandfather experienced. And I ended up printing up 200 copies. Some people read it and said, this isn't bad. Why don't you make up a few more copies? So then I did 750 copies. Actually, there's a Hmong city council person here in Minneapolis named Long Yang, and he read it, and he said, I want to buy 200 copies of this novel and give them out to people who contribute to my re-election campaign, people who volunteer. And when I asked him why, he said, well, it's a story about small towns and baseball, and I love both of those things, and I love this story. So then I decided that I would print up another 1,000 copies and make an effort to promote my story nationwide, and that's what I'm doing now. And the reception has been very good. People recognize this little small town and the relationships and very often they're small towns or their neighborhoods, even if they live in big cities, but they recognize the characters and they feel for them.
Yes. Wow. Well, that is an incredible, just a little window into your world. 40 years of writing and putting together this project. What was the writing? What was the writing process like for you? Like, were you writing daily or monthly? Or
I was. It was pins and needles. I wouldn't recommend my path to anybody else, but it was the path that I had to take. I had or have 4 children, and I was a teacher, and I worked long hours. I'd come home at the end of a day, spend some time with my children, and then at night, my goal was to write, initially just to write a word, and then to write a sentence, and then to write a page. And eventually, after several years, I had a manuscript. Now, I made one big mistake, and I would give this advice to anybody who's considering writing a novel. Choose who you allow to read that before it's published as carefully as you would a spouse, because, and by the way, I would highly recommend that you not give an unpublished manuscript to your spouse to read, because writers are so sensitive about what they write that it can, a single inflection or a word can derail a relationship. And that's what happened to me. I gave my novel to a very esteemed writer. His name was J.F. Powers. He had won a Pulitzer Prize in 1962. He was an older man, but he wrote about similar themes. And so when he when I asked him if he'd like to look at my manuscript, he said, yeah, sure. I presented it to him. He, after 50 pages, he stopped and he wrote, why are you punishing the reader with this? This is horrific.
What?
Life is too short. I can't continue. And more importantly, why are you punishing yourself? And so part of the reason, there was this jubilation when I got those horrible words, because I told my wife, guess what? I finally know I'm not a writer. I don't have to continue to plod away with this and fool myself. So I took this big manuscript, put it in a box, put it in my closet, and I thought I'd never see it again. But as I got older and as my father came down with dementia, as I said, I thought, what the heck? I'm just going to finish this thing, print up one copy, give it to my dad, and, tell him I love him. And so after about 13 or 14 years of this thing sitting in a closet, in 2014, I got it out and started getting it ready to go. But as I say, I couldn't finish it in time before dementia took my father's memory and then took his life. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Well, before you actually decided to, when you, after the 14 years and you took the book and you wanted to go ahead and start to print it, did you have reservations that were telling you maybe you shouldn't do this? Maybe you should hold off again?
No, I'm a sort of a funny person, as I think all of us are.
Mm-hmm.
If I make a meal, I think it's the greatest meal of all time. If I write something, a poem or a story, I just look at it and think, this is better than anything's ever been written. So I think to some extent you have to sort of believe that and psych yourself up. It's like a job interview. You have to believe that what you're doing, that you're the best at it, that you deserve this. So it's always a shock, as it was for me when I finally hired a professional editor, to have them say, it's not bad, but it could be better if you rewrote this scene or introduced this sort of a character. It's a complete shock, and I think that's usually the case with any artist. When they're learning, they're dumbfounded when somebody says, no, this is not going to win the Nobel Peace Prize this year. So it's just, I guess, all part of the learning process.
Yes, absolutely. Well, from this experience, what would you say has been your proudest moment?
My proudest moment is every time somebody approaches me, and it actually just happened last night, and said, I finished your story and I loved it. I talk about my stories in terms of mirrors and windows. The first thing that I like to hear is that they saw something in my story that resembles their life story. And so it mirrors their experience, and it's good that somebody else out there knows what they've gone through in a relationship or in a story or in overcoming an obstacle or a challenge. The other element that I get most of my gratification from is when they speak of that window that we talked about, that they were able to look through a window and see a way of life that they hadn't experienced before and didn't know about it. In my case, it's this little town of 727 people in northwest Iowa that I call Cottage Park. And it's fascinating for them to know that there are places where your legacy, to some extent, in these little towns is determined before you're born. And in my little community of Cottage Park, it's baseball. That before you're even born, there are plans for you to be a baseball player. And unfortunately, Ash, my experience was I'm a big man. I'm 6'4" tall and stocky and muscular. But there was just one problem in the legacy that my father had for me. I was afraid of a baseball. Have you ever felt how hard baseball is?
Oh, yeah.
Now imagine that baseball coming at you when you're down, genuflecting, ready to catch it and throw it over to first base, and you know it's going to take a bad bounce, and you know you have to block it and stop it, and it's going to hit you in the stomach or in the face. When I got to be about a sophomore in high school, I just told my dad, I can't play this game anymore. I can't step up to hit a baseball because I'm afraid I'm going to get hit in the head by a ball, and I can't feel the ball. So I just can't play anymore. And that was devastating for this man that I loved, because that was his legacy. His legacy was to raise a son who would love the game of baseball as much as he did and play it and be successful at it. And I couldn't do that for him. So that was very, very difficult. So this book is, there's an expression, those who can't play baseball, write about it. And that's what I did. As I say, my intention was to give back to my dad what I couldn't do. I couldn't play baseball, but I think I can write about it. And that's what Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost of baseball is all about. The Holy Ghost is a different element. Are you familiar with Hmong people? I don't know if they settle down where you're located, but the Hmong were our allies in the Vietnam War, and they have very elaborate funeral rituals that they believe that, and there's some 40% of our student body at Henry High School were Hmong, and they believe that at the funeral you have to chant and pound a drum and play an instrument that's akin to what's the pipes in Ireland. I'll think of it, but they play musical instruments because they believe that soul that's leaving the body needs to move on, and that if the entire family and the local community doesn't work hard to encourage that soul to move back to the motherland, that it will stick around and just create mischief. And part of my story includes that sort of a thinking. That's a thinking that's also kind of prevalent in some of Irish Catholicism, that spirits very often just don't head straight to heaven, but they kind of linger around in earth and try to do finish things that they couldn't during their life, and be a part of campaigns like winning a baseball state championship. And so my story, Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost of Baseball, is about fathers who are watching their sons, living vicariously through them on a baseball field, and sons always looking over their shoulder to make certain their father saw them make a particular play, and they understand they're doing this for their dad, even though there's never any mention of love between fathers and sons. It's all of that is implied through the action on the baseball field. And these Holy Ghosts that are lingering around, that are always present, that you can feel, that are also part of the game.
Great point. Great point. Tommy, let everyone know the best way to, number one, get this book, get this amazing novel, and number two, keep in contact with you.
If you would, please go to any bookstore, anywhere, and just ask for Father, Sons, and the Holy Ghost of Baseball by Tommy Murray. If they don't have it on the shelves, they'll order it, and they can get it in a couple of days. And if they go to Facebook, just go to Facebook and put in Baseball is a Religion, all one word. There is another site called Baseball is a Religion, but do Baseball is a Religion, one word, and it will bring you to my Facebook page, and you can follow when and where I'm going to be doing readings and some of the reviews I'm getting from newspapers. And hopefully I'm going to be on television soon once people hear this interview with you. So you've been a great support. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, thank you so much, Tommy. Yes, we are going to see you on TV. We're going to see you on interviews across the globe. More and more people are going to hear about this story and absolutely reach out to you to support it and to put more good, positive energy out there. Just a loving story, and what a way to honor your father. So I commend you on that.
Thank you and bless you, and I'm going to call you first when we do the movie for one of the major roles. Okay?
Absolutely. I want that first interview, Tommy.
bless you. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you so much. And thank you guys for tuning into the show. We appreciate you guys so very much. Keep in mind, anyone to tell you that you can't do what you want to do, you look them square in the face and tell them, don't believe me, just watch. Watch what I do. Watch me make it happen. Watch me make history. That's what we're doing this for. We're doing this for the history books. Social media is nice, but real life is so much better. Until next time, you guys.